Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Zach and I are doing a discussion for the Search for Lost Species, which is the Renegades' new re-theming of the Search for Planet X.
Yep.
So let's get this out of the way. If you don't like one, you're not going to like this one. If you don't like...
If you don't like Search for Planet X, you're not going to enjoy this game.
Exactly. They are both like logic deduction puzzles.
Yep.
Although I will say, at least there's a little bit of difference between this
there's
one.
definitely difference.
So it's not a complete re-theming, but still the core of the game is a logic deduction puzzle.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's great.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. I actually like this theme a lot better than the Planet X one.
So, I like space a lot. So,
Right.
for me, Search for Planet X, but I will say both games are 100% on point for theme. Like 100% point on theme. I felt like you're a nature observer. I thought there were things more cleverly done in this game than in Search for Planet X.
Yeah.
But that should be kind of, because, I mean, this is at least 3, if not 4 years newer.
Oh, yes. When did this? Oh, Search for Planet X. 'Cause I got the Kickstarter for it. Search for Planet came out in 2020, so 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So, I mean, again, and Renegades does a good job of taking feedback before they build expansions, before they put out second editions. And so what I feel like is they took all the feedback from Search for Planet X and built another game that you could say is version 2, but feels different.
Right.
Feels significantly different.
Yeah, exactly. This one, I mean, the major difference for me is you're actually present on the board. So it's not so abstract that you're really just like hopefully remembering or getting your notes down correct. You're actually where you go matters.
Yes.
When you use your camera matters, because that's like a one-time. You're guaranteed to get an answer here for a while.
Right.
Then you're like, all right, can we all like hurry up so I can get my
But the cool
camera
thing
back?
is, in Search for Planet X, you only get to use the, in essence, camera twice, and that's it. You never get the tokens back. Here, depending on how long it goes, you're going to get the camera back more often. Now, I think we got maybe twice.
Yeah. And I almost spent them immediately. Well, I spent mine immediately.
I spent mine pretty soon.
Yeah, and that's how I got my lorry. Because
it was funny. You were searching for lorries up there. I had zeroed that there were no lorries in the entire bottom.
Well, because I got, I mean, all the research that I got
was for lorries.
No, was actually the opening thing was kind of like, okay, lorries can't be here, and I was like, well, like the first thing was 7 and 8 couldn't be lorries, and I'm like, well, then there's no way this can be placed. So I already knew lorries weren't up in the north, and then I think my first camera told me a lorry was here.
Yes,
and
from then you were pretty much.
I think
set.
I just kind of guessed.
Yeah.
A little bit. But like the scores, like for our score was like basically the same.
Yep.
If I didn't misclick, I would have won. So I hate this game. No, so I love the actual maneuvering around the map and being like, okay, if I want to, do I want to spend 3 time to search? It's like you want to cover as much ground as possible, but then that's just going to widen your range of answers. It's like, okay, if I go to 13, 14, and 1, I search for toads, and it says there's 1 toad, it's like, okay, well, that didn't help me. Really?
Right.
And then the research and conference notes that we had, like, I was able to zero in on the toads because of all the research I got.
Got it.
Like, all that basically.
I was trying to figure out how you zeroed on the toads as fast
because,
as you did.
So here's, because you didn't research like twice.
I researched twice.
So the python and toad was no toad in the same terrain as the python.
Got it.
Exactly 1 toad in the swamp.
Okay.
Exactly 1 toad is adjacent to at least 1 couscous.
Got
it. Exactly 1 animal in the swamp is the same as in the hills. And so those were the 4 I got, which zeroed in on a toad was up here, and I was like, oh, they have to be adjacent to exactly to at least true empty areas, which helped me over in that area. So then I was like, okay, the couscous has to be here. Oh, that means that the python has to be over here because the couscous are in this area. So that's how I got like all that info.
So one of my research, because I did B, was the hills. There's only one animal type in each of the hills. So, like, the minute I figured out, like, the toad was in that hill location, then I knew there's no toads in any other hills, period.
Yep, and that happened to coincide with a toad is the same, is in the hills and the swamp, so it's like that's how that worked out.
And so, again, it's a great puzzle game. It's a great logic puzzle game.
Yep.
It has a solo mode because there's no reason, again, because it's a logic puzzle, that you can't play it solo and just play to try to figure out your score, in essence.
Yeah, this game does, like, allow you to, like, write down what actions your opponents are doing.
Right.
I don't think I've ever done that in any sort, because I don't think, it's like, well, I still don't know what you learned.
I put things together, so in a few times, once I started really getting into Planet X, I could especially see when people were, I would call it, what we were doing with the searches, where they would do a pie wedge for asteroids, and then they would overlap a certain amount of their pie. So I kind of knew, like, oh, you found an asteroid in this field, and you knew there weren't a few there.
Gotcha.
So now you're trying to figure out where the other 4 are.
I see.
And so that would give some information, but it's those type of things.
Yeah.
When people start overlapping pies in Planet X.
Yeah. And then here, what's interesting is because in Planet X, you get more points for being the first one in the thing and getting it. This doesn't have that at all. And I actually find that fine just because you have more things to consider. It's not just figure out what's in this section. It's like you have so many spaces to move around.
And the whole board's open for the entire time. Like in Planet X, it's only half the board at any one time is ever open.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, I mean, you can find out information before others, and once they're revealed incorrect, then that's out. You can't obviously jump in and get points, but because you can see what's gonna score and then what's gonna get placed later, and it's like, oh, okay, like I got my toad in here after you did prior to it scoring, and I like that.
Yeah,
I feel like it feels more free. It allows players to kind of be like, well, I also knew that. Like, so why am I punished for just being, it's like for going in second, you know? It's like if we both know something, we should both get rewarded for it. But if I know it before you, by the time it comes around to score, well, then you can't come in and get it. So here's my problem with this and Planet X. And we actually experienced it in 2 different ways in this game that we just played. And this is a problem with really all logic games. Turing Machine has the same thing. If you misread or mishear something, your game's over.
Right.
Like unless you really took detailed notes and you're able to backtrack a lot. Because yours was you misput the first conference, right?
No, I didn't know that the clue came out with the creature.
Oh, yes.
And so I was playing the whole game without that information.
Right, that they can't be adjacent to toads.
Right. And so I guessed it was in location 4, which was correct. I was going to guess location 11 because it was only 2 animals next to it.
Yes.
And it was the only one that fit. And then when I started looking over, it clicked when I looked at 4 that the mountains removed the adjacency requirement. Mm-hmm. So it's like, now there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
And also, it doesn't defeat the lorry thing because it's not adjacent anymore.
Right.
And so it doesn't break that rule. And it's like, because that's why I marked it off.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was thinking the lorries are there, all those 3 spots are gone, it's just an empty space.
Right.
So it clicked through it. Again, like you said, I took detailed enough notes of my own for my own spot to say, okay, here's the logic puzzles I know. These are the spots I already know the answer for what animals are there, so we can already mark those spots as gone.
Exactly.
And then it's just working it through, and I happen to be able to get it right.
Right.
So
yeah. So because I did know that information, that marked that out. Because 11 was my second thought whenever I was like, oh wait a minute, no, they can't be adjacent to a toad, and I now know that's a toad. So the issue that I had, and this is kind of a problem because it's on an app, is on my notes, I have the lost species circled for 4, and the couscous in 5, and the snake in 3. But whenever I was putting it in the app, I misclicked on the lorry, and it's like, no, you didn't find it. And it's like, that was directly after you had did it, so it's like, oh, well, that's fucking annoying, because I clearly have it right, but, I mean, it is what it is.
Because the problem is, I don't know a great way to fix it, because you get information if you input it wrong.
Yeah, potentially.
And you can't have someone else check you, because you're giving them information.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just an inherent problem with logic games. If you just kind of misclick or you...
But I will say, so one thing, they do give you a spot to say, are you sure? Which in Planet X they did not, but here they did. They said, so you put everything in.
Yeah.
So it's literally 4 windows. It's 3 windows. You put where it's located, put one adjacent, put the next adjacent, and then it asks, are you sure?
Yeah.
And at that point, realistically, you do need to just double check yourself.
That is true.
And then go.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy, because that is a problem in Planet X. There is no, hey, are you sure? Here's your answers. This is what you put in. Are you sure?
I can't remember. Is there anything stopping you besides the time mechanism of just searching for it? Oh, no, because you also have to do the adjacencies. You'd have to get, like, super lucky.
Yeah, you have to be super lucky.
Could you imagine starting the game and it's like, I'll search for it, and I put the snake in that, and it's like, you get it.
I mean, if you get that, awesome.
Yeah, it's like, alright, dude. I've memorized every algorithm the app can give.
But I think that's why they do the whole adjacency. Because at that point, the chance, like, I would have to go through and think the calculations, but it would be astronomical.
It would.
The number of possibilities for that to not be true.
No, I know. It would be wild. The other addition that this has that I don't believe Planet X does, because you're just searching for Planet X, are the fact that you are searching for a very specific lost species that has its own rule to it. So not only are you picking between six options that has a rule on how it's placed, where the other species, the lory, couscous, toads, and python, where those are going to be.
Right.
I think this is a really neat addition.
That's neat. I like the fact that, so in Planet X, and again, we are comparing it because they're made by the same company, the same game, basically, is when you pick the beginning, you pick your level, but it's basically how many clues you want to get, up to 12.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Before, it was in sets of 2, so it's 0, 2, 4, 6, and then, I think it was up to 12, so it goes in like increments of 4 or something.
Yeah.
Now, you can pick literally from 0 to 12. If I want 7 clues for everybody gets 7 clues.
Yeah, or just different. It doesn't even have to be for everyone. It's like it's like, oh, I've played this game, a lot more than you. I'll give myself 1 hint, and you can have 7, or whatever. It's just a sliding scale on what you personally start with, which Search for Planet X was just kind of... It did have that.
It did have that, but it was fewer options.
It almost felt like it was like a beginner, medium, hard. Like, just kind of... It was very limiting.
It was I think it was 4 options, and now you have 12. I can pull it up,
because I have the app. Search for Planet X. Start new game. Okay, so then expert mode. Continue. Spring. Okay, so there are 4 options. Genius 0, Experienced 4, Beginner 8, Youth 12.
Right.
Is all it is.
So again, it's the same range of them, but now you get anything in between.
Yeah.
So let's say I am a beginner, but I've played this game once before versus everybody else at the table, so I'll subtract 1 from it. So you guys all get 4 clues, I get 3 clues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have a slight advantage, not a lot, but just that little peak of advantage.
I mean, any information is just
super valuable.
Is super good. And you know what I also like about this a little bit more than Planet X is Planet X, I felt it also had the standard and expert, the 12 sectors versus the 18. I did not like that game with 12. I felt it was just way too, not necessarily simplistic, but it felt like it was kind of, it was almost samey, whereas whenever you had 18 sectors to work with, it required a lot more logic, a lot more things going on.
And they have that. So we play on the easy board.
Oh my god. Oh, there is another board?
Yeah, it's on the other side.
Oh, didn't even know that.
Yep.
Huh. Oh, and the mountains are different. Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's more central locations on that, so you can't do the boat action as efficiently.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Because that's what I think is the major, is the boat, because it's cheap to do boats. It's only 2 times to do boats.
We never did it, though.
I did it once.
Did you? Oh.
It was the only way I could get to the north as fast as I could.
That's fair. That is fair.
Because I was trying to find where the lorries were.
There's 5. All the hills are in the middle.
Right. So, that's considered the hard side versus easy side. And again, I don't know how much harder it is versus easier, but...
I mean, from just seeing the board, it's... I mean, couscous are going to be fucking annoying. Because I basically find one. It's like, well, they're still everywhere.
Right.
But I also think that the 12 to 16 sectors were so radically different in Search. This doesn't look to be as
radical.
As radically different. And also the fact that you have movement. You have... you have the I just realized I dumped all those cards. You have those village cards, which we can talk about. What do you think of the village cards?
I like them.
You liked them? I wasn't sure if you were going to like them because I was wondering if you think that they added RNG to a Logic game. I mean, every card that came out that I happened to get was another research, and it's like, that'd be cool if I could get that.
But,
you know?
But here's what I thought. It's that would be cool if I could get it. But I also was saving a time every single time that you took a survey action from the very first step of the game.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I've probably made up in the logic that you gained in it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's why I think you got more tokens out than I did.
True.
Correct tokens, at least. I got the same number of tokens out. They just weren't correct.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's where I felt like it felt balanced enough.
I mean, but the Pathfinder was another card that I could have went out and gotten to even that. So now it's like, well, I'm saving time on moving, and I happen to get more research in you. So now it's no longer
But
fair.
there's some... I mean... So I care a little bit less for fair, because some of the times there's 4 options out there currently. Yes, you could top deck into something better, theoretically. I didn't feel like any of them were overly powerful. None of us went for extra points. I think in a larger player game, that might make or break things. Especially ones like with hills, that you get hill answers more often than correct. That could be worth some real points.
Right,
there.
or if you get the Python, if I went to spot 3 with a camera, it's like, oh, the Python's here.
Right.
Okay, and now I'm going to go get that, because no one else is going to get that.
Right,
because
that's 8 points there.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, I like them. It adds a little bit of variety, but I can see a lot of people not, because it's like, the camera is like a end-all be-all on one location. You could get super lucky, and then that card also happens to be out, so it's an 8-point swing already that no one else is going to... I mean, that's literally 4-point difference on finding the lost species.
Right.
Versus 7. Which is...
So, I mean, I'll say I didn't feel bad about it.
They're there.
They're there. I thought they were fine. It didn't radically change how I was going to play the game.
Right. I almost feel like they took it, or they added these so it wasn't literally the same game from Search for Planet X.
Right.
That obviously doesn't have any cards.
It doesn't have any cards. I'll say I like the timing tokens better than I like how Planet X does it. Planet X, I always feel like I have to think it through. I just have to go from one and then go all the ways around in a clock order. Here, with the numbers, it is nicer. It's cleaner, I feel like.
Yeah, it is cleaner. It's very obvious what's scoring and what is being placed. Because just from looking at it, it's like, okay, so 4s are going to score now, and then 2... things next, that's whenever these are going to score. So it gives people quite a bit of time to figure stuff out. I
mean, so I own Planet X, and I'm actually considering maybe going out and picking this one up. Not that I'm probably going to get rid of Planet X, because I really do love that game, but this is super solid.
Yeah, I think they 100% stepped it up. Because Planet X, for me, I just looked at what my scoring was, so I had a frame of reference. I give it a 7. Because it is what it is.
Right. So it's a top 10 game for me.
Really?
Yep, it's in my top 10.
it's like pure logic games aren't like something I always want to run out for.
Right.
But yet, now that Turing Machine is out, it's like, oh man, that's also really, really good. And I think I got more hung up on if you just miss, like, if you miss one thing, your game's over.
Right.
And that's very, very annoying. Whenever it's like, oh, like I misread that, or...
But I'm trying to think if there's any deduction puzzle game that I can think of that isn't true.
In terms of logic, no, it's not. Like, deduction could... I mean, like the Sherlock Holmes games, it's just like, it doesn't... I mean, I guess still, if you
like even like clue,
something...
like, I mean, trying to think, like, if you misinterpret a clue somewhere in a deduction game, it doesn't matter, because if you guess wrong based on what you thought you knew, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the issue still rings true for this one,
right?
In that if you just think that whatever the lorries are somewhere and you dump all your tokens, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm not getting any points.
Right.
But if you don't own either, I'd say this one.
I would say this one. Definitely.
It's definitely cleaner. And here's the thing.
Unless you like space better.
Exactly. If you are really into sci-fi. But, I don't know. This one actually feels more thematic. Just because it's like, this is something we can more relate to, of being on Earth and animals and stuff, versus, well, I don't observe through a telescope.
So at school, we did... Wow. We actually had an observatory at school.
Well, I didn't go to a cool, rich boy school like you did. I didn't do any of that. Actually, no. I think at one point, one of like the science teachers had like a sun viewing telescope.
I mean, I went to literally an engineering school where one of the professor's hobby was to keep the observatory actually running.
Well, see, there you go. I didn't have any of that, so maybe that's more thematic to you.
Right.
But
which is why, I mean, I think Search for Planet X is more thematic.
Gotcha. It's more thematic?
For me.
Oh, okay. I'm like...
I was agreeing with your comment of for me.
Oh, okay. And also, I think this game has more room for expansions than Planet X. Like, 100%. you just do species expansions, more cards if you want them.
Right.
Really, all you just need are more of these.
Yeah.
Because these are going to drastically change. You are stuck kind of with, unless you want to completely reprint.
We'd have to reprint and have different creatures with different logic pieces.
And have a board. So,
well, I mean, theoretically, you wouldn't need to change the board, because again, whatever your board is, the lorries, you might not have something that is doing that hex, but again, you could create 5 other ones that are all logic based, still based on a hexagonal board.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I mean, a mini expansion of just more of the actual lost species. There's certainly plenty out there that are endangered. That, because like, well, are they? Okay, no. I was about to go. Are they all really just not adjacent? No, they are different. Like the Wandewoy tree kangaroo is not in the same terrain as the python.
Got it.
So that might lead you to try and figure out where the python is first.
Right. And
Planet X just doesn't have anything like this.
Right. But yeah, you definitely could have more expansions if they wanted to. It's pretty clean for what it is.
Yeah, if you've played one, then you're going to be kind of familiar with the beats of this one.
Right.
It really just adds the camera token and then the village token. So, I mean, yeah, it has similar beats. I was worried that it was just going to be a rethemed Planet X, but it's not.
It's why I didn't back it, because I thought it was just going to be a retheme, and if I really liked it, I would get it afterwards.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's good.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you going to give The Search for the Lost Species?
It's a 10 for me.
It's a 10?
Yeah.
I do like it more than Planet X. I'm going to give it an 8.
Yep.
8 out of 10 for me. I still have both.
Yeah.
But this is... And I'll probably keep both just 'cause.
Right.
But yeah, this one is kind of like, well, why would I play one over the other? you know?
Right.
Versus we just got done playing Great Western Trail New Zealand, and now one's like, oh, I could play all three of those and have a great time. It's like, this is the same type of logic. I prefer this theme over Planet X, so
right.
why would I...
So in this case, I don't know that you would want both. I kind of want both because I take Planet X to social gatherings because I find that a lot of people like the pure logic deduction games.
Yeah.
And so by bringing both, one, I can basically double the size of the people playing games for it.
That's true.
And if people prefer one theme over the other or have a preference for themes, get them onto the table more often.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think the reason for me, I mean, yeah, that's a very valid way of owning both, is comparing to the Great Western Trail trilogy, is playing those gives you a different strategy of how you're going to do it. Here, the logic is the exact same.
Yeah. How you get to that logic is a little bit different, but realistically,
it's the same hexagon.
Yes.
Like, okay,
writing your notes down, clearing pieces off.
Exactly. It's just now you have a spatial element
right.
of doing this versus, oh man, I'm going to try it. How am I going to get my logic different?
Right.
So I'll probably keep this one.
Yep.
And get
rid of the other one?
Probably.
I mean, it makes sense. I agree.
Not really. I misclicked, so I hate this game. I have to win every game, otherwise I don't like it.
Right.
That's how shallow I am.
It would have definitely been a 9 if you had won the game.
100% been a 10. I'd be like, it's the best logic game out there. No, did your sheet also have like a different thing on the side? That is nice.
Mine was Lori's.
Okay, mine was about Couscous.
Okay.
That is just nice. A little
with a little map telling you where they are.
Yep, little info on the right side.
Yep. So I'm assuming there's more on the other ones.
Yeah.
But.
So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me, 10 out of 10 for you.
Yep.
That's our thoughts on the search for lost species. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.